Konnichiwa, Mina Slimes. Oh god, I can't believe I actually did that. It feels like ash in my mouth. Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Steak Turncoat. Has anybody else been plagued by that guy? Sometimes I get, I mean, I haven't actually seen him in a while, aside from earlier today. There's this guy, I have no idea if he's like a Toronto person who's really good at Japanese or a Japanese person who's really good at specifically Toronto English. Bad Toronto English, that's my personal opinion. Um, he's just a guy who like speaks Japanese really, really well, but is also teaching people weird Toronto slang and mixing the two together, and I hate it. But the funny thing is that it's actually kind of informative about Japanese. Uh, the fucking Minaslan. It's like on some Gamenasari bullshit. But it's like I can't really say anything because it's genuine Japanese. Like he's good with the language. Uh, but I it is like, man, I really need to get back into studying Japanese. Like for a good long while, I was on a good like tear about it. I had gone through all of the kanas and was fairly confident in it. I was starting to do some kanji studies, but time got away. I've been busy. I've been busying myself with other things. Things that are starting to bear fruit. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I now more or less understand guitar. It's just I've gotten over the mental hurdle of guitar. I just need to get to practice and dedication and all that other fucking hot nonsense that makes learning new skills challenging, but also fun. Um, yeah, there's uh, so part of my new schedule with university right now is that I actually have a 2-hour window in between classes, which normally sounds cool. Normally that's a nice time to go back home, fucking do nothing, and head back for like a nice mental reset. But I actually live about an hour from my campus, which means it is not. Uh, it is not. There's no really real point in me going back home and then immediately turning around and then heading back over to campus. So I've been using that time as like a personal studies area. Uh, for the first week or so, I didn't actually get to study all during it all that much, partially because that was Great Order was having a Valentine's event, and I didn't want to miss it, and I didn't, and I got everybody that I needed. Good Valentine's event. Anyway, um, but now that it's freed up, I'm using it for like writing stuff, and I'm going to use at least an hour of it. There's an app that I use called Anki, which is actually very good. I just don't use it as much as I probably should. Uh, Up there with things that I don't use as much as I probably should. I made myself like whole ass flashcards for Japanese for retaining my kanas and some of the kanjis, and I just don't use them. I carry them everywhere I go. They're technically on me at all hours of the day. If you can, that's them. If you can hear that. Um, yeah, that cotton mic. That was them. And I don't look at it. Sometimes I do, but I don't look at them as much as I probably should. Um, Especially since recently I've noticed that like I can I'm noticing that I've forgotten more kanji than I know, which not kanji. Fuck, there's a lot more kanji that I don't know than I know. There's more kanas that I don't remember than I do remember, which kind of sucks because I worked hard to remember that. I worked hard to do that. But I found my old kana practice sheet, so maybe I'll do that more often. Who knows? But But yeah, I have time to do practice stuff. I have a space and time for which to do projects that I've always meant to do without the distraction of my weak ass will, because it's a semi-public space. But let's forget about all of that. Soujyuro and Akko are hiding in a fucking gifts kiosk. Let's go check back out on them. Hey man, how you been? He looked up to the ceiling. Their eyes met. Before he had a chance to think, Soujyuro hopped up from the floor. Azaki, get out now! Taking the initiative, he jumped out from behind the counter. Are you mad? What do you think you're... Trying to stop him from committing an act of suicide, she also came to her feet. Immediately, she noticed something coming to life overhead. Oh, fuck. What the... Oh, crap! Jesus Christ. Oh my god, that was close. Hold on, I want to see something. Play the line. Yeah, it was Yaba. Yaba. The gargantuan mouth clamped shut. With no mascot to speak of, the burger joint itself began to transform into one giant monster. That's a good question. Who the hell paints a giant clown on the ceiling? Shouldn't they have flexed their creative muscles somewhere else? If they like clowns that much, why didn't they put on the entrance? Alko aired out her grievances as she ran. There was no safe haven left. Moment by moment, the last remnants of civilization were being eroded away by fairy tales. It's rough out here, folks. Ooh, this kind of reminds me of that one Kingdom Hearts track. Is that a fucking dragon? It's probably a roller coaster. Shit, it's a roller coaster, isn't it? The amusement park had reached the final stage of snarkification. It wasn't just the mascot characters that had been granted life. Like the burger joint, even the buildings had begun to transform. The roller coaster that made its way about the park writhed and twisted like a Chinese dragon. Alko and Soujyuro stared, dumbfounded by the Ferris wheel, which had grown to over 250 feet in height. Hordes of breadmen closed in on them as if to offer tickets. I'm telling you, the line is under control! Mobs of trinkets. Actual kickshaws rampaged the park. Whenever a hole was pinched in the envelopment, it was instantly filled. It was a battle of attrition with no end in sight. But that was a matter of course, as there were few fairy tales about limited resources. This is hopeless. They just keep coming. Look for the Snark's real form. The fairy tale monster always has some vessel for its body. If we can just destroy that, we should be able to get out of here. Body? What would that look like? Oops, shit. Oh yeah, tell the man who lived so deep in the mountains he thinks all this shit is normal. Just look for something impossible you've never seen before. Yeah. I already told you, fairy tale monsters can't exist in reality. Anything weird or impossible you've never seen before, that's going to be it. Something weird or impossible? Gonna need an example here. Do I have to spell it out for you? Living puppets, flying go-karts? Aoko paused her firing for a moment. After saying this out loud, she realized just how deep their grave was dug. The amusement park was a treasure trove of fairy tale-esque creatures on any given day. Who could say what was impossible amidst the newly transfigured knickknacks running around? Shit. Everything here is weird. So it's hiding in plain sight. I've seen that pumpkin cart a couple times. Hoping that she was wrong, Aoko bit her bottom lip. Flat Snark was the type of ploy that deployed bounded fields. Seeing as it was commanding so many familiars, it wouldn't be unusual for its main body to have little or even no defenses. Furthermore, it was modeled from a story about it being untouchable and unidentifiable. It would be logical to assume that it would collapse in on itself shortly after being discovered. Which means, we find it, we win. Would finding something so fragile really hide? Would something so fragile really hide among its minions? You said that the best place to hide a leaf is in the woods. This was closer to the truth than Aoko realized. As long as there was the slightest possibility of it being hit by one of Aoko's stray bullets, it would not dare appear in front of them. Its true form was orchestrating the park from somewhere else. Sure, we've seen it already. It's the subject of a book named after it. It's not standing out on every page, it has no right to be the main character. I guess that's Shinjiko. Interesting. But where? But very simply, the Ferris wheel was the safest location in the park, as well as the symbol of its past glory. Perhaps it's also the one thing directly being influenced without actually actively attacking them. So Ferris wheel is a safe bet in my book. What if we just try and catch her instead? Her eyes opened wide at the sudden suggestion. While Aoko had been trying to come up with a plan to overcome this stalemate, it seemed Soujyuro had been racking his brains as well. His proposal was a simple one. If they couldn't find the Snark, they just needed to take out its master, Alice. Alice had not moved at all from the clock tower. Even from there, they could make out her figure draped in moonlight. That's the worst move he can make. Even if we killed her, it wouldn't stop the Snark, and all of its absurdity would just boil over to outside the park. Not to mention, I can't even kill her in the first place. At best, I could only get halfway there. A birdman, angered at the insults hurled toward its master, moved to attack and was mercilessly burned to a crisp. I wonder if they're tasty. The two stood back to back, catching their breath. No plan to speak of and no route of escape. They'd reached rock bottom. Meanwhile, the oddities were forming a circle around their prey, as if they smelled blood in the water. Were they to be dragged into a bakery for the oven, minced in meat grinder at the butcher shop, skewered and paraded around atop the carousel, walk the plank of the thorny pirate ship? After 2 years of slumber, they were eager to welcome the new guests. There's something I need to ask you, Aozaki. What is it? Keep it snappy, I'm thinking here. Okay. It's painfully clear what these things want to do with us. Well, what about her? Did she enjoy this? I doubt it. He thinks hatred of humans comes from a deep-seated grudge within the park itself. Maybe even Flat Snark's personality, too. Alice's familiars are one big family of freaks. Though, now that you mention it... Aoko was unable to deny that there were some similarities. Good to know. So, did you come up with anything, Aozaki? How do we stop him? Sorry to get your hopes up. I'm all out of ideas. No, but I bet they'd stop if you dropped dead. No thanks. Let's just get out of here. Hey wait, Suzuki! She blinked in surprise at the sudden turn of events. Soujyuro, who until now had been meekly following her lead, grabbed Aoko's hand and pulled her with him to head on a charge at the swarm of bread in an attempt to break out of the encirclement. Part of me feels like Soujyuro's fucking done. He's like, I'm sick of this shit. I need to find a way to end this real fast. Look at him go, damn. Are you out of your mind? How on earth do you figure this is what we do next? Shit. Aoko nonetheless followed Soujyuro's uncharacteristically gung-ho lead, cursing him all the while. Alone, he had no chance of breaking through the surrounding wall of enemies with brute force. Aoko regained her breathing bearings and let fly a spray of magical bullets ahead of him. They burst through the net and ran as hard as they could. At this point, all that was left to do is what they had planned from the outset. Get out of the park. But not before addressing what needed to be addressed. Is it the Ferris wheel? I feel like it's going to be the Ferris wheel. Oh, yeah. Where the hell did that come from? Didn't you already give up back at the House of Mirrors? Aoko couldn't begin to comprehend Soujyuro's reaction. That was back at the Mirror House. Just run! What are you talking about? Alice wants to kill you for the exact same reasons I did. This won't play out any differently. Though she wondered what was getting her so worked up, Aoko didn't stop. She told herself that the degree of Soujyuro's stupidity, charging with Redmond so recklessly, had caused her to lose her cool. It probably has something to do with you were the one offering to kill him, but I'm not going to look into that deeply. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm gonna try and kill you again tomorrow. Really do it. So if you don't want to die, you should be trying to escape me too, got it? Then let's talk about that tomorrow. I don't really care if you kill me, but I just don't want to be killed by that girl. Yeah, see, I was right. Like I said, why the hell not? I don't even know what she looks like, nor have I ever spoken to her. What? It was like someone had doused water over her blazing fury. Aoko's anger was snuffed out by the absurd simplicity of his reasoning. Because you don't know what she looks like? Could it be that Soujyuro didn't mind being killed by someone as long as he hadn't met them? Aoko grimaced as she followed him. From her spot atop the clock tower, the girl observed the growth of her familiar. Lat Snark. The savior of the discarded. It was a vile, vulgar fairy tale monster who provided those abandoned by fate with a glimmer of hope before snatching it away. Alice had it under her control, but she was still keen to keep the Snark from expressing its bad habits. After completing a lap around the park, they had now reached the size of an entire town. But Robin made its situation report. So, they're trying to get out. It seemed Aoko was prioritizing the safety of the boy. Even if it resulted in wasting an entire day, choosing not to capitulate on the decision was very much like her. That's too bad. I'm sure Aoko would attempt to burn down the clock tower. Me with it. The bluebird cheeped in response. Was it denying its master's portrait of Aoko? Or agreeing that it was Aoko's style to do exactly that? I'm not sad about interpreting introductions either way. Does this bore you? The robin jumped at being addressed so unexpectedly. It chirped and flapped its wings like a flustered servant, frantic to say otherwise. It's rare for us to get along so well. Oh my god, no. Okay then, if it's a game she wants, a game... Oops, shit. Hello? No. If it's a game she wants, a game she'll get. Let's liven things up a bit, shall we? Calmly, she pulled out a small object from her pocket. It was a dark gray Easter egg, and emanating from inside it was the ticking of a clock. The robin knew it to be a ploy kickshaw, with a bad attitude far exceeding Flat Snark's, known to be among the best in one-on-one situations. Oh shit. Go. I've set the extolling time for 20 minutes. Break. In that subtle way of yours. And together with the witch's breath, the egg filled with praise disappeared. Suddenly, a strong wind swept through the park. The words, "I could have killed them all by myself," floated through the air. It was the disappointment of something enormous that was visible to all, yet overlooked. That must have been the Snark. Aoko and Soujyuro continued their dash towards the boundary separating the park from outside. The curio horde that stood in their way had reduced in number. The iron fence that separated the two from the outside world was just over 300 yards away. That's still pretty far. Fortunately, there was no particularly large buildings barring their path. If the Ferris wheel had stood in their way, that would have spelled the end, but thankfully it had yet to reach its full strength. The only things that appeared before them were the weak oddities that could easily be handled by Aoko's simple magecraft. At this rate, we might just... She would have said make it to the fence, if only her lungs would allow it. Since Aoko was utilizing the ample mana filling the park, Her tank of magical energy was nearly full. Moreover, the condition of her body's circuits was steadily improving, to the extent that she could be able to unleash at least one all-out onslaught. She'll need it until something unusual was hovering above her field of vision. It was locked on Soujyuro, hovering 10 feet above him over to one side. Suzuki, look. What? That thing? It's been on us for a while. Soujyuro had seemingly noticed before Aoko, hence his previous awkward glances towards the sky. In truth, it would have been stranger for him not to notice, as the thing is practically glued to him. Moon, grass... Hold on. One of these is it. There it is, okay. Moon, grass... Queen Alice? In terms of size, the floating object measured about 3 feet in diameter. Tiles covered its exterior, about which a multitude of spinning lights danced about. Is that an egg? Soujyuro asked, not really sure what to call it. An egg? If it's an egg, then that means it'll crack. What if you don't want it to crack, though? Oh, her bullets bounced off like it was made of rubber. That trait, the ability to deflect all outside interference, confirmed to Aoko that this thing was undoubtedly a ploy kickshaw. Knew it. I can't break its rules from the outside. Suzuki, don't take your eyes off it for even a second. No matter what happens, keep your eyes locked on it, even if just in the corner of your vision. Sure? Aoko picked up her pace as she barked orders. The Eggman who sat on a wall. He would crack, just as the tale spoke of. Nothing anyone could do or say would cause him to fall. But the moment they stopped looking, he would tumble down and break into pieces. All the king's horses and all the king's men could put him back together again, or so it said. If it's who we're talking about, then it's couldn't, but... It was the Mother Goose poem, Humpty Dumpty. If Soujyuro was its target, then the moment he averted its gaze, it would tumble and explode. Except for the exploding part, who knows what'll happen when it falls. Either way, it was going to scatter something troublesome when it fell. Its oval shape, the keyhole adorning the front, and writing inscribed upon it, they all made her anxious. If it was an egg, that meant it was going to hatch at some point. Even if he continued to stare, once the time came for whatever was inside to come out, they would have even less ability to conserve their energy. Ozaki, can you slow down? If you use up all your energy now, you'll... Forget about what comes next. Just focus on watching the egg. At this critical juncture, Breadmen stepped out to join the egg and block their path. Out of the way! The Breadmen were marching forth in a grand battalion. At her level of firepower, Aoko should have easily mowed them down. However... These have hard crust. Take this! If Snap failed to do the job, that meant it was time for her to put her crest to use. Draw, a formula-triggered bullet encased in a full wind jacket. If her previous shots were the equivalent of machine gun volley, then this was her artillery shot. The hard crust bread that had absorbed her snap without a dent scattered into thousands of tiny pieces at her draw's torrent. Yeah. Wow. Of course, the destruction didn't end with just the breadmen. What had once been a brick road was now thoroughly stripped of its pavement. The nearby stalls had been warped into twisted steel skeletons. It was a spectacle that made Soujyuro question what the greater obstacle to their escape was: the wall of breadmen, or Aoko's ability to lay waste to things. Hey, don't wander off. It's dangerous if you don't stick close to me. Come on, get closer. We're out of strikes, you know. If they surround you, you're a goner. You should know hostages don't mean squat to me, and it's not like I can pick out my targets precisely anyway. This made a lot of sense to Soujyuro. A rare sentence in this. He hadn't fully appreciated the part of the hostages, about hostages, but he got the gist of it. So basically, I'm in danger no matter where I stand. You... Offended though she was by his typical naive response, she couldn't help but be impressed. Soujyuro was a straight arrow through and through. His eyes stay firmly focused on the egg overhead, even amidst the chaos of the melee unfolding before him. I don't know why I was worried. You may not be the sharpest tool. You are good at following orders. One thing, Aozaki. Am I imagining it, or are those breadmen seeming tougher than before? No, you weren't imagining it. They are getting stronger. They must have nailed down their mass production processes, so they've turned their attention to upping the quality. As you figured out already, they're just gonna get tougher as we go. Seems like even those bread guys have started to develop individuality. Interesting. I hate to think about it, but they might start spreading themselves with jelly or wearing other fillings and merging with one another. Though she was joking, her eyes were dead serious. Soujyuro shuddered at the thought of the situation growing even more dire. Oh, weird. So you're saying those guys are going to become as terrifying as the puppet from the House of Mirrors soon? Oh, you can count on it. And I'll have my hands full with bread that rare. Say, Suzuki, think you can handle yourself against one of those? Soujyuro shook his head, and looked a complete aversion on his face. Didn't think so. So let's get moving. We can't afford to hang around here. Aoko took a quick, deep breath and began to sprint once again. Far in the distance, through the fog, The iron fence waited, 300 paces away. As long as nothing happened, they would make it there in one piece. Soujyuro followed after Alco, holding on to that all too convenient hope. Hope was something ever fleeting. In fact, it didn't even last 300 yards. The edge of the amusement park may have well have been the edge of the world. Interesting. Oh my god, oh my god. Dozens of undulating horizons could be seen, crowding the sky like a giant cloud or a thick curtain, or perhaps like groaning lips. It was the end of the road, the outer limit of an outrageous and fantastical realm. And yet, Alco found it to be much like the last page of an enormous picture book. Sight turned her mind blank. Well, this is about as bad as it gets, she thought. The Snark, this island of despair, had at last brought Alco to her knees as she stared at the swelling border. The park indeed had an end. Even now, as Alco and Soujyuro had expected, the fence divided the amusement park from the residential area neighboring it. It had both doubled in height and it made sturdier. Another hurdle she had foreseen even before laying her eyes on it. Expecting it to have been snarkified, Alka had come prepared to demolish an obstacle or two. But this, the construction before her went far beyond a mere wall. It was an ocean that separated the underworld from the mortal one. The iron fence was like a restless, surging sea. One or two walls could easily be toppled. Even 10 or 20 could be dealt with one way or another. Between the power left in her body and that which filled the park, putting on a brave front was within her power. She could fully mobilize her circuits and her crest to the point of burnout in a last-ditch effort, like some reenactment of the parting of the Red Sea.
でもそれで終わり
That would be it. Even if a path could be opened, she wouldn't have the energy left to walk it. And it was obvious that what would become of her afterward. The residents would hardly forgive her for wreaking such havoc around their park. Like ants drawn to honey, they would swarm the helpless girl and tear her to pieces. Despondent and exhausted, she felt the sting of remorse. Escaping the park. Looking back on how they'd gotten here, Akko recognized that her choices had been her undoing. Under the golden full moon, beams of steel bent and merged like wireframe sculptures. It was only a matter of time before the amusement park itself became one colossal monster. The horde of familiars gathered in the plaza where Alice was, had formed an impenetrable blockade around her. Just above the head of the boy why is it doing this? Just above the head of the boy beside her, The whispering egg, called Scratch Dumpty, continued to shuffle what appeared to on its surface.
Aozaki.
Ozaki?
しずきくん。
Suzuki? The boy's voice snapped Aoko out of her trance, if only for a moment. The stark reality of the situation quickly dawned on the novice mage. The sheer hopelessness of it all as it ripped out and snatched away any will she had to resist.
ゲートに行こう。ここはどうしようもないけど、入り口ならもうちょっとマシだろう。
Why don't we head for the gate? It's kind of bleak here, but we might have a chance at the entrance.
フラットスナークだっけ。こいつにもルールがあるって言ったじゃないか。
That flat snark thing. You said it had its own set of rules to follow, right?
なら、これは役割の問題だ。初めから鉄柵は通れない壁だけど、ゲートなら出入り口として機能しているかもしれない。
Then we need to think about the basics. The fence would have been impassable from the start. The gate might still work as an entrance and exit. Soujyuro had not given in to panic. Aoko found herself honestly admiring Sojuro's ability to analyze Snark's characteristics, given the circumstances. Now calm, she steeled her resolve.
そうね。確かに門はあると思う。
You're right. The gate's a good option.
けど、たどり着くのは難しいわ。一番弱かった焼きたてパンですら、今はもうあれだもの。
Just getting there will be a challenge. Even the weakest enemies, these loaves, are becoming harder to deal with.
広場や入り口には、もっと上等なのがたむろしてるだろうし、門だって、あの観覧車以上の怪物かもしれない。確か、大きなキッツィちゃんだったでしょ、正門って。
Plus, the best of her familiars are just going to keep gathering at the plaza and the entrance. I mean, the gate itself might be a giant monster even worse than the Ferris wheel. It's designed to look like a giant Kitzy.
青崎はゲートには行かないのか。
So you're not going to the front gate.
まあね。それよりこっちの方が現実的だし。
Nah, you have a better chance over here. Aoko took another glance at the undulating iron fences. It was too late to achieve their goal of making it out alive. In that case, she decided to prioritize the other promise she had made.
今からこの鉄柵を壊すから、あなたはそこから外に出て。
I'm going to go ahead and break down the fences here. You have to escape once you see an opening.
それで、私の役割はおしまいよ。
Then my job will be done. Though her words were few, her tone told the whole story. She was telling him to escape by himself.
信じられない。
That's not possible.
こんなの、青崎だけじゃ壊せないだろ。
You can't destroy them by yourself, Aozaki.
私だけならね。でも、今はこの遊園地が味方してる。燃料がこれだけあるんだから、私は重心になるだけでいいんだし。一発でかいのお見舞いしてやるわ。
If I were by myself, you'd be right. Right now, the park is actually helping me. With this much fuel, all I need to do is aim and pull the trigger. One good blast should be enough.
それでも一回が限度だから、穴を開けたら、あんたには全力で走り抜けてもらうしかないけど。
That said, I will only be able to do it once, so as soon as I open a hole, I need you to run like your life depends on it. She would carve a path through the iron sea of fences, gambling on a final effort, a great incantation to launch the biggest projectile she could manage. As an outsider, Soujyuro couldn't even begin to imagine just how much of a burden this would be for her. All he could imagine was a hazy vision of Aoko being left behind in his park. What would happen to her? Would that girl in black come to save her? Cruel as it was to imagine, he knew she wouldn't. After Aoko had exhausted the very best in order to save him, that girl would not stay her hand. The only way Alice would let Aoko off the hook is if Aoko killed Soujyuro as payment. And so...
20メートルぐらい離れてて。
Get back about 50 feet.
準備に手間取るけど、その卵の表面が茹で上がるまでには終わらせるから。
It'll take some time to cast, but I'll make sure to finish it before that egg gets hard-boiled. It went without saying that this was the only path.
待ってくれ。俺を逃がすって言うけど、それに意味はあるのか、青崎。
Wait, I want to know first. Is there even a point to letting me go?
ないけど、外に出られたところでアリスから逃げ切れるとは思えないし。
None. Even once you get out, there's no way you'll be able to escape Alice forever.
けど、これぐらいは最後の意地よ。守るって言ったんだから、できるところまでやらないと。
Stubborn to the very end. I said I'd protect you, so I'm damn well gonna do the best I can to keep you alive. Surprised by her seemingly moral stance, Soujyuro saw Aoko in a new light. Again. But of course, Soujyuro realized that she wasn't fighting for his sake, for the sake of her pride.
そうだったな。
Yeah, I guess you did say that.
けど、それなら俺だけ逃がすのはらしくないぞ。
But it's not like you to let me go by myself.
何よ。いいから離れてて。
Give me a break. Just move already. Aoko eased off, just a bit. She recalled how an hour ago he had gotten the better of her.
青崎、まだ意地を張れるんなら、他のことをやろう。
Ozaki, if you're still willing to fight, let's do it some other way.
このお化けみたいな鉄柵を壊せるなら、他に壊すべきものがあるはずだ。
If you can destroy that monster of a fence, why don't we put your power to better use?
ないわよ。悪いけど、私は目に見えるものしか壊せないの。最後まで形のない希望にすがるとか、考えるのも寒気がする。
There isn't anything else I can do. Sorry, but all I can do is destroy what I can see. Dying for some forlorn hope isn't how I want to go out.
いい？今はフラットスナークなんかより、この壁を壊してあんたを足抜けさせるのが私の現実。私に負える最大限の責任って。
Don't you get it? The fact is, blowing this thing up and letting you slip out is all I can manage. I can't beat Flat Snark or anything else. It's the least I can do after...
逃げるのか。
So you're gonna run from this responsibility too? Aoko was just about to turn her back on him when Soujyuro clutched her hand. His words caused something inside her to boil with rage. It was as though someone had set her heart on fire. The surprise that pricked open her true feelings and the disappointment she felt towards herself thawed her frozen limbs.
誰が逃げるのはそっちで、逃がしてあげるのはこっちだって言うのよ。甘く見ないで。いざとなったら遊園地ごと爆破してみせるわ。
So you don't get it backward. I'm the one letting you escape, not the other way around. I'll blow the whole damn park if I feel like it. Just you watch.
そうか。なら、ここで俺を逃がすのは無駄だな。
Okay. In that case, it'd be a waste to help me escape right now.
その気迫は本命のために取っておこう。それまでは俺も手伝うから。
Save that move for when you really mean it. I'll give you a hand until then.
は？手伝う？それこそ無駄な気遣いよ。
Huh? You help me? Talk about a waste of time.
玉木田、いいから逃げろバカ。だいたい走り詰めで息も絶え絶えなやつなんか使えないわよ。
Now you're really pissing me off. Just get out of here, you idiot. What use do I have for a dumb whose special power is running himself ragged?
そりゃいい加減ヘトヘトだけど、
I may be pretty
そうい
exhausted.
う青崎なんか、疲れ以上に傷の方が傷んでるだろ。
You're in worse shape, Ozaki. Just look at yourself. You're tired and injured. Not to mention the injury on her back that Aoko had nearly forgotten about. Even now, she couldn't ignore the pain that automaton inflicted on her spine. With iron will, she'd managed to put it from her mind. Mostly.
ほら、 魔術とか抜きにすればまだ俺の方がマシじゃないか。入り口までおぶっていくことぐらいならなんとか。
Even without any of that magecraft stuff, I'm still in better shape than you are. I could probably even carry you all the way to the entrance if I needed to.
できないことは口にしないで。
Don't make promises you can't keep.
もういいから言って。慣れているもの、私は。でもあなたは違う。こういうの初めてでしょ。
Just go. I'm used to this and you're not. This is your first time facing this sort of thing, right?
だからいいの。
So it's okay. The fact that they were a team. The fact that she would still have to kill him after all of this. None of the irony was lost on her when she said these words. It didn't matter anymore. Still, Soujyuro didn't let go of her hand. He gripped it even harder. His expression was the same as ever. Aoko frowned, trying to figure out if he was upset with her.
確かにこういうのは初めてだ。
You're right. This is my first time with this sort of thing.
けど山じゃ危険な目ぐらい合ってる。鹿に襲われたことだってあるんだぞ俺は。
But I've experienced my own fair share of danger in the mountains. I've even been attacked by a deer, you know. As a city girl, she had no idea what it meant to be attacked by a deer, but his determination was apparent enough. True. Looking back on it now, he had maintained his composure through it all. A normal person would barely even be able to talk through such a panic. Perhaps growing up deep in the mountains, far from civilization, had taught him how to stay calm in the face of so much.
だから信じてくれ。少しでいいから。
So just trust me. Just a little. Where's Humpty? He spoke his plain, unadulterated feelings and released his hand. There was no lie in him. In fact, he was too honest. So much she found it hard to believe him. Soujyuro had no reason to go that far. As it stood, Aoko had no future. After confessing this and telling him to escape, why did this boy still offer to help a person like her?
わからない。どうしてそこまでするの？
I don't understand. Why do all this?
私に付き合えばあなたは死ぬのよ。
You're gonna die if you stay with me.
これが最後だからちゃんと考えてよね。あなたはここで逃げるべきよ。
This is it. This is your last chance. Think it through. You should be running.
それはわかるよ。でも行かない。
I know. But I'm not going anywhere. Soujyuro answered immediately, realizing that Aoko was looking for his reason. This level of insight in Soujyuro demanded a round of applause.
そうすると青崎が死んでしまいそうだ。
If I do, you'll die, Azaki. His words were as irrational as always.
だからどうしてそこまでするのよあんたは。
Why? Why do it? Why go so far from me? She was yelling out of frustration. After thinking for a moment, Soujyuro replied,
そりゃ君が好きだからだろ。
I guess it's because I like you. Simple and to the point. His face seemed to ask why she would even question him so. There was a pause, no more than 2 seconds. His surprise attack had stopped Aoko in her tracks. Alice wasn't the only one who had an ace up her sleeve. That line reached deeper than Flat Snark could ever hope to. All Aoko could respond was with an expression of pure shock. It was a simple, stubborn reason. The strongest kind on earth. Ugh. Soujyuro Suzuki was indeed incomprehensible. To be able to work unconditionally with someone who was trying to kill him. But she felt as though she had finally grasped a sliver of his true nature. Tobamaru and the others' assessment of him was correct, as vexing as it was for her to admit.
バカね。私はあなたのこと嫌いなのに。
Even though I can't stand you, you sure are a dip, you know? I don't know what that means. He laughed at her sour grumbling. At this point, he was used to her insults. Their clash of wills ended here. Aoko's blood ran hot from her blazing heart. If he was going to make a face like that, all she could do was try and think of a way to get them both home.
私だって逃げっぱなしは性に合わないし。
Whatever. Running away isn't really my thing anyway.
いいわよ。最後まで粘ってみる。それにしずきくんが付き合ってくれるなら、何かの役には立つでしょ。
Fine. Let's take it out to the end. And if you're going to stay with me, Suzuki, I'm sure we could find some way for you to help. Though her tone had lightened, there was still hesitation in her eyes. It was only natural. Aoko hadn't even had a clue how to begin to fight the Snark. If only she'd just been a bit more skilled, or trained just a bit more, there might have been some way to look for it.
我ながら情けない。せめて正体を暴く手がかりでもあればいいんだけど。
I'm better than this. If only I had a way to peel back its true form. Unconsciously, she let her apprehension show. Sniveling was pointless. She'd just have to figure it out by herself. But... are those breadmen in the distance, like, flying? What, that's all we need to figure out? Huh? Aoko gave him a look as if to ask what that was supposed to mean. Look, he's doing the face! Although, normally he has a little smile on it, but yay, the face! I mean, you asked me earlier to look for something weird, right? Soujyuro also made a face that suggested she should have bought it up sooner. Wait, you know what it is? I think so. Well, I've been wondering about it for a while, actually. Soujyuro whispered in her ear quietly so as not to be overheard. By who? Damn you, Soujyuro. It was certainly unexpected. But then again, equally obvious. After he explained the mistake, she knew right away that he was correct. At last, she had an inkling of Flat Snark's original form. Namely... They strategized for about 10 minutes. After deliberating the Snarks... This is so funny. Where are the fucking breadmen and shit? And what about the fucking egg timer over Sojuro's head? After deliberating Snark's true form and figuring out a plan of attack, the two exchanged nods in acceptance of their roles. They're so funny. We'll be splitting up now. Don't make a repeat of the blunder in the House of Mirrors. You're the crux of this operation. If you bungle the start even a little, there's no coming back from this one. Though she jabbed at him for his previous failure as a decoy, her voice was bright. Aoko's original vigor had returned to her, at Sojuro's discovery of the truth. Meanwhile, Soujyuro was also getting serious, in his own way. He took Aoko's warning to heart. But remember that our positions are reversed this time.
失敗したら死ぬのは私じゃなくてそっち。もうフォローに回れないから、できるだけ慎重にね。
If we fail, I'm not the one who's going to die. You are. I won't be there to clean up your mess, so watch your step.
分かってる。今更ながら、やっぱりさっき逃がしてもらえばよかったと思うぐらい慎重だ。
I know. After all this, I regret not taking your advice. What? Not taking your advice earlier? After all this, I regret what? That's weird. That was weird. I know. After all this, I regret not taking your advice earlier. I'll be careful. Soujyuro nodded, telling her to leave it to him. Although he made it sound like he was holding a grudge, it seemed to him to be the only way to showing. It seemed to him to be the only way of showing her his resolve. I can read. I know I can. There's video evidence of me being able to read. Aoko let out a sigh of defeat. Once more, she couldn't be able to figure. She couldn't figure him out.
ほんと、大バカなんだか大物なんだか。
Serious. Oops, shit. Seriously, I can't tell if you're a big idiot or a huge hero.
でも任せた。期待してるわ、しずきくん。
Whichever one it is, I'm counting on you. Don't let me down. She'd wanted to say that she believed in him, but apparently that was too embarrassing for her. Aoko turned away from Soujyuro and began to run. She'd begun to think that maybe this change of pace wasn't so bad after all. And so ended the intermission. The young cast members were handed their new lines. Whatever happened next? The Night of Witches had, at long last, entered its climax. Wait. Don't be the finale yet. Yeah, alright. They split up. You're sure? She was filled with foreboding at the Robin's report. Apparently, they had gone in opposite directions. Park's residents had set off after the boy witness, and it would take them mere minutes to capture him, so the bird said.
どういうこと？追いかけているのは本当に彼？青子が変装しているのではなく。
What do you mean? Is it actually him they're following? Not Aoko in disguise? The robin flapped its wings, chirping away any doubt. It had seen them with its own two eyes. Aoko was heading for the plaza, while the cocky brat was making a run for the roller coaster.
青子が彼を見捨てたですって？
Are you saying that Aoko abandoned him?
そんな簡単なことならいいけど。
It sounds a little too good to be. It sounds a little too good to be true. Is Dumpty still on his tail? The robin nodded enthusiastically. It didn't know about the other birds, but with its superior night vision, it had seen the sucker clearly because he'd moved up to a high point.
Dumpty はなんて?
And Dumpty?
最後まで歌わせろ。こんな褒め殺したい間抜けはまたとない。ですって。
He said to let him sing to the very end. That he may never get the chance to do so for a fool this asinine. Scratch Dumpty was a ticking time bomb that would drop and detonate the moment its target averted its gaze. That is, as long as his target continued to observe him. In a way, he was a gentlemanly ploy kickshaw, though Alice wished he would forego such niceties in battle.
そうね。視線を切らないだけでは、ダンプティからは逃げられない。表面の詩が完成すれば扉が開く。
Let him have his fun. Keeping an eye on Dumpty won't save the boy. Anyway, once the poem on his surface is complete, the door will open.
彼がどこまで逃げようと、 あと少しでダンプティが閉まってくれるわ。
No matter how far he runs, Dumpty will end in force. Until the park, or rather the Snark, was destroyed, Soujyuro would not be able to escape. Which meant the larger concern was Aoko. Aoko had promised to protect the boy, which begged the question, where was she running to?
ここにいる限り、青子の動向はつかめない。
As long as we stay here, we can't track Aoko. Alice looked over the park, ignoring Robin's attempt to get her attention with the plumage. Flat Snark had nearly reached its full size. It was a different breed of beast compared to the other cheap ploys. To her, it was one of her 3 most irreparable and precious familiars.
そうね。任せたわ、スナーク。青子が諦めない以上、あなたも手は抜かないで。
Yes, she's all yours, Snark. Don't hold back until Aoko is brought to her knees. Alice remained where she was. With the same historical merit as the troll under the bridge, and the poison-clawed reptile, Flat Snark was one of Alice's ultimate ploys. She was placing her trust in its reputation and ability.
でも忘れないで。これはゲームよ。
But don't forget, this is a game.
勝敗がついたのなら、私のところに帰ってきて。
When the contest is over, return to me. Drifting fog at the north ignored its master's words. It was the one thing that Alice had misread. Flat Snark was a king, even among the ploys of terrible, vulgar antics. Death to the defeated, gruesome tragedy to the vanquished. It found no pleasure unless it brought about a dramatic ruination of life and wealth. The fog billowed like wicked laughter. After all, only a king had the right to decide the fate of the vanquished, and the Snark's greed could not be contained. Thus, it hadn't even the slightest intent to play fair, despite its master's orders. Over 100 feet high, one careful step at a time, the figure made its way gingerly up the track, which stretched to the heart of the amusement park. Yeah, it's Soujyuro. He stayed his beating chest to the pounding of his breath. Even tiny movements were an obstacle to his progress. Amazingly, the one making this pale-faced advance higher and higher was Soujyuro Suzuki. Far below, he saw that a horde of bread creatures had congregated by the roller coaster platform. As they bustled this way and that, their numbers continued to increase by the minute, seemingly cheering on Soujyuro with raised arms as he made his ascent. Or rather, they jeered as if beckoning him to come down. Well, at least they don't like heights. Of course, neither did Soujyuro much, but his current state was the lesser of 2 evils. The only thing that followed him up was the floating egg. After heaving a huge sigh, Soujyuro bent forward and climbed to the track that inclined towards the heavens. 150 feet now. If this were a skyscraper, he'd be on the 16th floor. That's not that high. Well, I guess it's pretty high for fucking reclimbing a roller coaster. Strong gust of wind whipped through his hair. Humans had an instinctual fear of heights. In particular, a place like this, which called forth visions of falling to one's death, would cause a person's knees to tremble against their will. It was an instinct that forewarned death, urging its master to return to the safety of the ground. It was a reasonable reaction. Climbing the roller coaster tracks went far beyond funny stories and into the realm of fantasy. Strong winds and change in air pressure were a hindrance. His instincts screamed at him to stop, causing his limbs to go numb, his muscles to go limp, and his mind to race. Even if he had been tied to a lifeline, a mere 15 feet of climbing rope would still have caused his thoughts to freeze out of sheer terror. And it would only get worse from here, exponentially so. Every foot forward increased the load on both his mind and his body by another degree. I can do this. Just a little bit more to the top. The burden on his mind notwithstanding, he carefully measured the toll on his body with every step. His legs, which had carried him running this far, threatened to buckle the moment they let go down his guard. This fatigue was likely why Alka had stressed that Soujyuro's robe was more dangerous than hers. Wait, would Aozaki have been so worried if I wasn't tired? Soujyuro laughed as he stared at the floating egg. He reflected on the course of events that had led to this absurd situation. Not even 10 minutes ago, they'd engaged in conversation. Okay, since we know what form it's taken, we need to talk about how we're going to destroy it. Soujyuro felt a shudder travel down his spine at Aoko's smug grin. In hindsight, Aoko had been more than happy to, at this point, to make him do something absurd. Stop it. Well, how are we going to do that? Can't you just, Soujyuro wanted to laugh. From what he'd seen, Aoko had enough firepower to tear clean through the fence. And hurt, because that's literally what she said. He'd refrained from speculating about Flat Snark's true form because he'd felt there was nothing he could do about it, even if they knew. But that had changed. For Aoko, the impossible was quite literally within her grasp. It won't be that easy. By my estimate, I wouldn't get within 150 feet of that thing. Despair filled Soujyuro's eyes. Aoko lifted a hand to her long hair with the magically charged fingertip clipped a clean tuft of it. But we can make up the difference with some elbow grease. Get to the highest place you can. When the time is right, I give you a sign. So toss this into the air. That's all you need to do. But based on where Aoko pointed her gaze, she didn't really mean to leave it up to Soujyuro to pick the highest place he could find. She was staring conspicuously at one of the amusement park's two main attractions. A roller coaster. So in other words, you're saying we split up. You want me to run away from the monsters chasing me and escape to somewhere high, right?
そういうこと。ほら、あのうねうね動き出してるコースターのレールとかよくない？
Exactly. And hey, wouldn't you know it? Tracks of that winding roller coaster are perfect. There were 2 demons in this park. Her smile made even Soujyuro want to respond that it was far from perfect.
疑いたくはないんだが。
Far be from me to question your motives here, but
本当はあの子とグルで俺を遠回しに殺そうとしてるんじゃないか。
you're not secretly working with that girl to kill me, are you?
あら、私に殺されるのならいいんでしょ？
Now. Wasn't it you who said it was okay if I was the one who killed you?
人の出現を悪用するのは良くないと思う。
It's not nice to twist other people's words. Soujyuro hung his head. This was not sane. If he did as she said, he would die from exhaustion before Kitzy even had a chance to eat him.
私だって鬼じゃないわ。ほら、こっち向いて。
Hey, I'm not a monster. Hey, look at me.
おまじないかけてあげる。
Let me cast a charm on you.
うん、
It was the lightest of touches. Close enough for their breath and skin to come in contact. Oh. Zaki, he finished with a hushed voice. For one of them, it was a rather mundane magecraft. For the other, it was a head-spinning, intimate ambush.
軽く、弱く、うまく、早く。
The weight of the air, the tremble of one's breast.
チクタクチクタク。急げや急げ。
Light lags, while shadows pull ahead. Be light and frail, nimble and fast. Tick-tock, tick-tock. There's no time to waste. Words that could not be produced by a normal larynx, carrying a peculiar weight to them, reverberated against his eardrums. If words were given colors, these colors would have been the color of her name, blue. Soujyuro's exhausted body and burning blood gently cooled.
飛ぶ、泳ぐ、駆け抜ける。
A bird in the sky, a fish in the sea, you in the distance.
チクタクチクタク。汽笛を鳴らせ。
Stuff doubt and anxiety in a sack. Begin the journey at dawn.
星はいつでも北の空。どこまでも、いつまでも。
A shining star falls into your heart. Fly, swim, run. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Sound the alarm. The star is always in the northern sky, no matter where you go. In reality, it took but a few seconds. But the sudden contact had made it feel a little longer.
よし、暗示成功。成功したはず。ここまで手応えがあったの初めてだし。
Mesmer is successful, I think, because they felt the take.
アリスの小言もたまには役に立つじゃない。
I guess all those lectures from Alice paid off. A very merry Alco stood aside, a very confused Soujyuro. After he asked what the heck had occurred, she responded.
簡単な暗示よ。一時的に恐怖心を消しておいたから、高いところに登っても平気なはず。
It's an elementary suggestion. I temporarily erased your sense of fear, so you should be able to climb up there no problem.
あの手の作業で一番足を引っ張るのは動揺でしょ？
The biggest thing standing in your way was your nerves, right?
恐怖も何も感じなければ、地上何メートルだろうと、平均台とそう変わらないってわけ。
If you don't feel fear, or no matter how you climb, it's no difference from walking a balancing beam. He seemed to get it. It actually all sounded like Greek to Soujyuro, but he accepted it as an explanation for her strange actions. Finally made it. He'd arrived at the summit of the track. From nearly 200 feet high, Soujyuro had a bird's eye view of the entire amusement park. He was able to spot Aoko's figure right away. In the plaza, not far from here, she seemed to be occupied with something conspicuous. Her surroundings lay still. The breadmen were still busy trying to figure out how to reach Soujyuro by trial and error from the roller coaster's entrance. They were over 300 feet away now. No wonder I'm drenched in sweat. Look how much ground I covered. The strong winter gales quickly dried the sweat on his brow, but he was still drenched underneath his shirt. Take it off! As much sweat was worth at least a half-mile run, not to mention all the scares he had experienced throughout the night. Alright. All I have to do is wait for the signal. He felt a wave of relief. Although I must say, he's supposed to be standing at the highest point. Not only does this area look much higher, this looks like it's at an incline, so he could probably be going further. But like, image. But not at the thought of Aoko destroying the Snark in his nightmarish park. He was simply happy he could repay a bit of his debt from the House of Mirrors. Oh, that must be the signal. A blue bullet rose from the plaza where Aoko was located. That's the signal! Soujyuro stood atop the tracks, pulled out the pouch he had stowed in his pocket, and tossed it forward. Without any regard for his questionable footing, he gave a mighty overarm kick. The small pouch drew a parabolic curve in Aoko's direction, quickly becoming untied in midair. Inside the bag was the lock of her hair with a small stone weight. Just throw it with the wind somewhere high up, and I'll take it from there. Aoko had said, but it was Soujyuro's effort that had set the plan in motion. The tuft of hair remained airborne, drifting as if watching over its owner. Yo, bro, don't close your eyes. Soujyuro's job was done. He remained concerned about the egg hovering over him. There was nothing he could do about it. Soujyuro breathed a sigh of relief and leaned forward to watch the rest of the plan unfold. Then... Huh? In the corner of his eye, he thought he spotted something familiar approaching Aoko. Shit. Connecting to crest. Route set. Oh, shit. Direct current crest. First layer, second layer, third layer reserved. Magical energy supply. Fixed to greater source. Low, check. Angle, check. Formula stability. Good enough. A pattern began to carve itself into the brick street. The casting of an unprecedented incantation with unprecedented range. Keeping the rising tension connected within her chest, the fledgling mage snapped her fingers.
Starmine.
Done. Bullet configuration. Convergent launch. Tour plan. Starmine. She kneeled at the center of the formula and raised her head to the night sky. Not even a glimpse of the transmogrified fantasy land around her entered her vision now. Only one thing. One untouchable thing was reflected in her blue eyes.
実はずっと気になっていたことが。
So, this has been on my mind for a while now. This is how their conversation started a few minutes prior. Soujyuro began with a simple statement of fact. In truth, it really was the simplest of discrepancies. Any difference between the reality of an hour ago and the illusion of the present was both infinitesimal and infinite.
雲があったから勘違いしたんだろうけど。
I thought maybe I didn't know what I was looking at because of the clouds. It was hiding in plain sight. Too impossible to be real. Too outlandish to be here. In this amusement park, where every paradigm had shifted, something was brazenly flaunting its normalcy.
今夜は新月なんだ、青崎。
Tonight's supposed to be a new moon, Azaki. The moon.
思えば初めからその形だったものね、あんたは。
Yeah, now that I think about it, there was always a moon behind Alice, especially after she summoned Snark. Yeah, come to think of it, it's actually what you started as. Come on. The distance from the Earth to the moon was 238,900 miles. If it truly was identical to the actual moon, this monster indeed lived up to its eerie reputation. At a distance that vast, there would have been no need to hide. It could flaunt its true form for all to see. But if it had to hide its true form, that meant it was vulnerable. The monster's camouflage implied that it sat within the reach of human hands.
こっちの最大射程はよくて600ってところだけど。
At best, my max range is 650 yards or so. Oh, it doesn't like that. Doesn't like that. At this point, it was time to give it all she had. Drawing on the energy surging throughout the park, she extended her firing arm. Is that the hair in the distance? A blue firework launched into the air. Oh, it was a signal. Okay, right. Looking up at her hair dancing in the wind above, Alka reached out her right hand as if to catch the night sky. A mage's own body made for the perfect catalyst. And for a female mage, the hair she'd grown out over many years made for a particularly valuable and powerful source of fuel. Reen said so in the first, in Stay Night. I think it was the first route. To use it, all she had to do was apply her will. She locked the fingers on both her hands together and shouted.
三層展開全術式連結起動
Play third layer. All formulae commence linked activation. Formula, something like that. She hurled forth a clear challenge to bind the moon to herself. Ah. The clouds are behind it. The mist began to whirl about in a vortex. The monster high above bore its fangs at the sight of the blue spell that appeared in midair.
見抜かれたですって。
Did she figure it out? By the time Alice had noticed the change, the hostility between Aoko and the Snark was palpable. She's also sitting on a moon. But that could just be like the only place to sit. Very well. This round goes to Aoko. Return immediately. Perhaps remember the rain clouds too obvious a hint, but I suppose one can't win them. Flat Snark? The fog continued to thicken, with no sign of abating. The moon that floated in the night sky could not pardon such an insolent mage. As if the Lord of the Night would bow down to such impudence, there was no staying its wrath at a challenge so flagrant. Fucking Gilgamesh-ass fucking... Snark? The robin swooped in to give its report, but Alice waved it away. Her gaze was fixed on the transforming golden moon. Her calls of restraint didn't reach it. This fairy tale monster was beholden to nobody, and it would have no qualms unleashing its vast might upon its puny prey. The core of her magic bullet howled. The magic circuits within her body spun. Aoko fed them magical energy, scorching her nerves with imaginary flame. She was linked to the formula inscribed in the ground. The spell was read and executed the same as it always was, but its output was far beyond reckoning. With this much firepower, even this mundane process would invite injury upon its caster. It was enough to burn up the nerves that were acting as the barrel. I can do this. The imaginary heat had reached a terrifying temperature. Aoko trembled at the endless feeling. Would have to grin and bear it, at least lest their efforts come to naught. Aoko could no longer move. When she had learned the Snark's true form from Soujyuro, she gave up on any superiority a movable turret offered, instead offering to become a stationary cannon. That was the only way she could reach it. It was impossible to hunt the Snark unless she anchored her crest at this location and angle. At the same time, this action revealed that she was out of options. Once the fuse was lit, she would have no choice but to fight to the bitter end. Aoko took a deep breath. This was the way she wanted it. The preparations were complete. She'd be able to deliver this maelstrom of magical energy directly to the moon, like a payload. The third mid-air layer served as the cannon's muzzle and sight. It would fire the magical energy once it reached criticality and allowed Aoko to adjust the angle of fire. Fog? The moon became warped within her scope. It's fucking with her sight. For there it was, a point among the otherworldly sky, a mystical visage obfuscated by jade mists and azure clouds. Called the greatest treasure known to the world of magecraft, a rarity more valuable than an entire kingdom. Crown Phantasm. That's it. The Flat Snark. Set apart from the first, the world's greatest fabrication. Not yet. Just need a little more time. Her instinct screamed at her to delay no further. This fairy tale monster was the greatest of its kind and was about to expose its true form. Its open hostility made it clear that it was ready to counterattack. I can't move. Not with an incantation this long. If it attacks before me, it's all over. Magical energy was at 80%. Forming that was operating normally, All that was left to do was pull the trigger, but... The calm voice inside her asked if it was really okay. She had one shot at this, and there was no going back. It was a battle of precision with no room for miscalculations. Even a tenth of a second of hesitation would tip the scales. Was she ready for the pain? Was she ready to deal with the fallout if she missed? Could she really take down the moon with such a tiny bullet in the first place? Enough! Shoot first, ask questions later. Her eyes fixed upon the moon were filled with determination. She knew that the moment she fired, the intense recoil would overwhelm her entire body. Still, she shouted. Bring it on! I'm gonna set this thing spinning with all I've got! Every ounce of spirit she possessed, she fired her ultra long-range projectile into the sky. This is the cover. What's happening right now, this is the cover of the game. The third layer embraced the magical bullet fired from the surface of the earth. The crest, an extension of Alco's self, unleashed light to pierce the moon. However, it's cool as fuck. That's cheating. You can't do that. Come on. An enormous blue canopy pulverized the beam. It returned the ether, that 3,000th degree flame, to nothing as it came in contact with the bullet. The recoil of the Grand Mage craft literally boiled her blood. Her body couldn't handle it. Her heart stopped. Her brain went numb from the pain and impact. Her nerves putrefied from end to end. But her magic crest revived them all by force. Ice? Blocked by ice? Even though her vision had gone white, she could still see it. Swallowing the blood in her mouth, Alco looked up with a scowl. There it was, an enormous shield of ice and its sneering, deformed skull. Did I fire too late? Too early? Did I have fired the shot before I made that shield? Was it too reckless to shoot it head on? Who cares? First layer, second layer, reactivate, hurry! There was no time to think or hesitate. The magical energy throughout the park began to gather. Alco knelt, across from the tyrannical face of the moon. The intuit of the ice had yet to fully form. That Snark still hadn't reached its full strength. Which was exactly why... Shit! By accelerating the spell, Alco damaged her own body. The burden of linking the formula to the Snark caused intense pain. All she could do was grit her teeth and endure it. All because... that ice is tougher than my best shot! Alco had gotten a read on their relative strengths. Even if its volume of magical energy was identical, Snark's form, its mystic scale, was in a different league. Alco could charge her energy to the absolute limit, and that would barely make a dent in it. Meanwhile, there was nothing she could do to prevent her own annihilation if the Snark gathered as much magical energy as it could. Then before that happens, she loaded her next shot. She issued orders to the floating third layer. Ignoring the toll on her body, she began to accelerate the first layer formula. The roll of her right hand's single layer was to absorb and store surrounding magical energy. The thick fog that drifted through the park was an ancient ether spewed out by Flat Snark's own body, but Aoko could pour it into her formula. Aoko's body, which had integrated with the formula, took on an amount of magical energy that far surpassed its maximum capacity. It seethed in agony. Or rather, it trembled in delight. For a mage, magical energy was a propellant to reach the liquefaction of the self. It's different. The release of the physical. They were all what one might call a near-death experience. On the precipice of what lay beyond, Aoko stood firm and faced reality. Still, reality had come to break her will. The gap between them was plain to any observer. The gun barrel named Aoko Ozaki had not a chance to chip away at that lump of ice. So, she accelerated the spell further. The skull grinned. That ice was no shield. It was a hammer. The crushing mages who didn't know their place. The moon laughed as it prepared to crush not just Aoko, but the boy atop the roller coaster, as well as the park in its entirety. So what if it hurts? Her circuits were on the verge of going critical. Her body had been charged with scorching power supply from her fingertips to her eyeballs. She could see the bullet fired. She would arrange the magecraft formless as quickly as her nerve's transmission speed will allow. A single attack was not enough. There was no way to shoot it from its flank. Zoop. Which meant there was only one solution. Reconnecting to alternating current. Alternate selector. The third layer began to transform. It switched from a direct to alternating current. The spell's supposed strong point was its ability to adjust its trajectory mid-flight. But right now, all she wanted was numbers. Connecting. Set. Octagram. All layers. Max rotation. Yeah. Go around! Blue sun shined down upon the amusement park. Beams of light at maximum output streaked forth to pierce the golden moon. Nope, or not. What is the plan here? Is it to punch through? Yes! Holding down the trigger, she continued to fire, taking in energy ad infinitum. Okay. Just maximize your coverage. Understood. Blue flames shot forth at critical level. The ice would neither melt nor mar. No amount of sheer heat could make a dent in something formed from such colossal amount of magical energy. The toll on her circuits set them berserk, and blood began to run free. The spin should have been more than enough. He's just too strong. Battle had become a tussle over the magical energy that filled the park. From the very beginning, this had been the Snark's home turf. But Snark had control over at least 80% of the space, while Alco had 20 at best. No, I can't stop it. No. The castle of ice descended as if to call the match. All she could do was delay the inevitable. She knew that she'd been backed into a wall, and right now the only thing she could do was keep firing. Then again, perhaps not. There was another option. If she converted all her magical energy into a defense, there was a tiny chance. No, not tiny. A great possibility, in fact, that she could save just her. Shut up and do it already! Even that ice has a chance against all the magical energy here. Clinging to that broken hope, Alco continued to rotate her circuits. Time seemed to stop at the magical energy overdose. A second of intense pain lasted an eternity. Then, amidst everything... Huh? Something approached, one step at a time. Something from among the park's shadows. Something. Wait. She felt goosebumps from head to toe. The issue was no longer the ice overhead. In the midst of the stillness, the Red Death drew a step closer. Step by ominous step. Why here? Why now? Her circuits and her mind began to rupture out of terror. The composition of her formula and soul began to rip apart. There it was, just behind her. Its footsteps came to a halt. It reached around and cupped her face in its blood-stained hands. Greetings. She wanted to scream with all her might. This is it. Nothing matters. I couldn't care less. Run or don't run, it doesn't matter. Quit hiding and reveal yourself. Use whatever you can and show no mercy. That was it. She had one final card to play. Once, a miracle had been gifted to her, almost as a joke. It made the ice look like child's play. That was the Red Death. That was what the Red Death had come to kill. Using it would spell ruin. Not using it would mean death by ice. Then why hesitate? There were no conditions on its use. There was no price to pay for its power. She would simply cease to be herself. That was all. Humans love to exist in areas of gray. Dozens of electrical impulses disconnect the brain in every minute. Nothing lasts forever, not even oneself. It was not anything particularly worthy of disdain. It wasn't even anything remarkably worthy of being called taboo. Oh, it's the cat from the beginning. Shut up! What escaped her lips now was rage. Bewilderment from the red silhouette. The girl let out an inaudible scream. She scrumped. Could true magic truly be her savior? What an opportunistic load of bull! After all, to begin with, I don't know how to do that shit yet. Indeed, Alka was still in the dark when it came to that magic. Whatever it was. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's right up on the third. Her gun barrel basically by now. And that sound was it breaking. Oh geez. Oh geez, Humpty, we're really in it now. I'm such an idiot! She woke from her momentary hallucination. The very illusion her breaking soul had shown her. Whining had the opposite effect on her. Her pride was now ablaze. So you gotta run from this responsibility too? Soujyuro was right. Her opponent had put her in check, but she had done the same to it. It was clear why she was losing, so now all she needed to do was a counterplan, well within her abilities. No matter the odds, she was not one to give up without giving it one last shot. That's right. Giving up only comes after you've tried absolutely everything. Her numbed fingers clenched into a tight fist. She was betting against the house, an unreasonable gamble that should have made her question her sanity. If her first step was off by an inch, her body would be instantly vaporized. But she knew a boy who never fled. She knew of a steadfast courage that could shine its light no matter how small, any desperate situation. Yes, there was more than just herself to be concerned about. If that ice fell, it would mean the destruction of the park in its entirety. Everything he had achieved, everything he had risked and dared and happily put his life on the line for, would all be for naught. Really? What possessed him to be so bullheaded? Determination and confidence surged through her like electricity. She was in no mood to be crushed by a giant sheet of ice. If she was going to lose, she'd rather do so as the grandest firework possible. Alka was a sore loser. At this point, she would rather burn herself to cinders than let it decide her end. Disconnect. Expand area. Reconnect. Change. Change. Change! She grunted in pain. Energy raged through her body. Her circuits were on the verge of disintegration. Inscribed upon her body, her magic crest was magecraft given physical form. It did not, however, stop with simply skin and flesh. It burrowed to the very marrow of her bones. A playful smile graced her lips. Her sense of reason had been turned upside down by the pain. It was only natural. I can do this. She had to praise her own body for holding out so long while she pushed beyond its limits. The skull-face noticed the abnormality. It finally recognized the challenge for dominance over this space. It laughed at the conceited face. Never did it expect a magician to challenge the great flat Snark, lord of vessels over a millennium, and in such an age of decline. She tried to catch her breath. She braced herself for the coming pain. She was going to smash that ice to pieces. Both had access to the same amount of magical energy. One of them was greatly outmatched, but it wasn't her. There was a difference in our output. If I'm losing because of the scale of energy absorption and the size of the barrel, then the solution was simple. All I need to do is make the formula bigger and me with it. Reconnect bullet configuration. Change tour plan. This feels like two different directions. Feedback would go beyond anything she had experienced to date. Quite simply, her decision went beyond recklessness. She expanded both formula to maximum size. The first layer would transform into a giant vortex, swallowing up the mist. The second layer would process it from one end and pump it into her, the barrel. I was naive, thinking I can do something cute like shoot it down. What I needed to do was blast it to hell. Primeval power answered the spellcaster's conviction. It formed the pattern of a writhing serpent. Voiceless magical power flew, a banner of revolution. Now, look upon the earth, O venerable one. See now this pioneer, this first among trailblazers. She embodies a species that knows no fear, that renders not all manner of mystic and tradition. Jump? I should say that. I'm done borrowing from you, you lying. If you really want it, I'm more than happy to give it all back. For the newest magician commands the principles of consumption and extinction. Shit. Yeah, pushing the ice back. Oh no, it fully broke it. Okay. An aberrant bullet of light melted through the castle of ice. The barrel held fast. Her control of magical energy was divine. 100,000 miles of veins, equal to 2.5 times the circumference of the Earth, hungrily drank in the magical energy. The subsequent magical strike hurtled straight up at the moon. Hey. No. Death rose from the moon's surface. A cry of indignant terror echoed through the abandoned park. Reality was burned into the eyes of this creature of fantasy. To Alco, its vain struggle was the taste of victory. Victory, despite her absolute reckless use of magical energy. The energy scales have been tipped into the breaking point, but nevertheless in her favor. Oh, interesting. Bullet configuration, your plan. Ow. Total Eclipse, Converge, Blacklight Starbow. Tear it a new one! I'm not yelling. It's almost midnight. Shatter, chatter, chatter, chatter. The skyscraper scattered in atomized dust. The island, its unattainability extolled, had swallowed whole the despair of its many challengers. Long had it proudly eluded mankind's intellect. Yet now, azure mist bemoaned its demise. In the sky, the icy canopy crumbled. The Snark hunting bullet jumped over the moon. Its throes of death sounded like the roaring sea reverberating across this fairy tale land. Battle was over. Thick fog dissipated and the shattered ice melted away before it hit the ground. A lethal bullet unseated the Night King from his throne, affording him no time to grieve his loss. The oil of the moon, the untouched, flat Snark. The dreamscape that had begun with its resurrection ended with its demise, drawing a close to the nightmare. Sorry, Alice. You need a new toy now. Oh man, I guess I kind of went overboard. Ooh. Flat on her back, Alco looked up at the night sky. She lay there perfectly still, not able to move a single finger. When she tried, her whole body screamed in agony. She was completely empty of magical energy, and her magic crest had come to a halt. She estimated that it would likely require the whole day to recover all her bodily function. Sadly, all she could really do at that moment was take a breath. At least her chest was swelling with pride. She'd gone toe-to-toe with a fairy tale monster and emerged victorious. battlefield condition had favored her. It was true. But there was no denying that Aoko had come a long way in the last 6 months.
それはそれとして、アリスには謝っとかないと。
Luck or not, I do owe Alice an apology.
プロイって壊したらそれっきりだものね。
Oh. Once a play has been broken, it's gone forever. Flat Snark would never again return to this world. It was an insanely rare item, so invaluable that it would have been possible to price it for an auction at the Association in London. Aoko had sent Alice's priceless treasure to oblivion. Needless to say, things got more than a little out of hand. Yeah, but that was Snark's fault. Let's be very clear about what went on here.
まあ、でも。
Still. They both agreed to the fight, so Alice probably wouldn't complain. Even though she was furious, she could never be so undignified as to show it. Whoop, there goes my vision. Second, Aoko relaxed. Her fatigue finally caught up with her. She did everything in her power to fight off the overwhelming drowsiness. Aside from a few minor internal injuries, her body was miraculously unscathed. She felt like she could probably stand up and dust herself off after a bit of rest. The golden moon continued to burn in the night sky.
正体は油だものね。そりゃいつまでも燃え。
Well, you are oil after all. You could probably burn for it. Aoko's bleary eyes went wide in astonishment. She was still unable to lift a finger.
そっか。スナークを見つけたベイカーも最後は一緒に消えるんだっけ。
Oh, right. The baker who found the Snark disappeared along with it. I have kind of been wondering about Soujyuro for a little bit now. She sighed in resignation. Aoko accepted that her final stand left her with only 10 seconds before she burned to ash too. Elsewhere, just a short moment prior, buffed by strong winds atop the roller coaster, Soujyuro gravely peered down at the ground. Hmm? All he could muster was a single murmur. You could see Aoko on top of some drawing on the ground and...
なんだあれ。いくらなんでも頑丈すぎないか。
What in the world is that thing made of? In the distance, there was something familiar in the direction of the ruined House of Mirrors. Soujyuro's job, to throw Aoko's hair from a great height, was complete. While not the most impressive of tasks, it was absolutely a matter of life or death. And to top it all off, just thinking about how he was going to get back down on the ground was making him dizzy. He had experienced more than enough trouble for one day.
いや、でも、あれ。
Wait, but... Some people's like, oh shit! He was flustered as he stood atop the swaying bridge. A skull suddenly appeared in the sky above. On the ground, he could see a circling blue light with Aoko Ozaki in the middle of it. And one more thing. From an angle that only Soujyuro could see, shadows stalked Aoko. Fuck again? Jesus Christ! From an angle that only Soujyuro could see, a shadow stalked Aoko while she challenged the moon. That fucking doll! It was shaped like a person, missing the lower half of its body. The disembodied torso slowly crawled its way towards Aoko. They were still over 600 feet apart. Unfortunately for Aoko, she completely failed to notice it approaching from behind.
遠くて見えないけど
It's a little too far away to make out, but isn't that... He was sure of what it was now. There was only one thing in the park that would chase Aoko and not hit him. A puppet. But I mean, like, maybe it's, you know, coincidence, right? His mind ran in circles. It was a perfectly reasonable reaction. Any grip on reality he might have had left was long lost when Aoko started firing beams of light at the monstrous moon. Yeah, it's the... Whoa! Aoko's merciless fire buffeted the roller coaster like a storm. Just standing on it was almost enough for him to be thrown off and killed. Bro, you gotta get out of there. At any rate, Soujyuro couldn't fathom the situation. Should he head back to the entrance of the roller coaster and warn Aoko about the incoming threat? Now, there's no way he could make it in time. And to make matters worse, there was ordered bread down there waiting for him. And it very well might have been the case that Aoko was already aware of the puppet and would take it out as soon as it got closer. If she was, Soujyuro was sure he would only be in the way. Or you gotta get out of here. Things are only gonna get worse up here. But it didn't seem like there was anything he could do to help. Beyond that, Aoko wasn't the only one in danger. He was in quite a predicament himself. Oh, were we remembering Dumpty then? You can't go home again. The road home was never as safe as one thought. It's as true here as it had been in the mountains. The path he was on was no exception. As risky as the ascent had been, it was even more dangerous to go back down. This was no time to be worrying about others. His shaking legs reminded him that only 200 feet separated him from death. I'll be fine. I know that. Just... his head was pounding. This was reckless and stupid. Having been raised in the mountains, he was more sensitive to danger than anyone raised in the city. Just thinking about what he was about to do made his throat seize up. There's only one thing he could say for sure. Aozaki totally doesn't know that thing's coming for her! I gotta get out of here! With a sobbing shout, Soujyuro started making his way down the 200-foot frame of the roller coaster. His race towards death accelerated. He never meant to speed up, but the downward slope propelled him forward. Here I go! It was too late for regrets. As he was running, he had no choice but to go down even faster. And time was not on his side. He would never make it in time if he took the long way down. Never mind the breadmen crowding the exit of the roller coaster. With the exits blocked, the outcome would be the same, whether he went slowly or quickly. There was no reason to rush to his death if it as desperately as he did. So what? So what if it was futile? Soujyuro cleared the doubts from his mind. He turned his attention to what he could do. Keep his footing and try to arrive at the bottom as quickly as he could. Focus. Forget whether you'll be there in time to save her. The most important thing is... He had no idea what impulses were driving his stiff limbs. He just focused on the moment, pushing past the fear and cold logic. At his core, he was the kind of person to deal with problems head on. There would be time to think about the consequences later. But hesitation was not his only obstacle. Not now! The worst possible hindrance appeared at a time when not focusing on the track meant certain death. Soujyuro sensed something wrong with the egg he had been so studiously observing out of one eye. Something had changed. And at the very moment he realized it,
よそ見してる場合じゃない。
keep looking to the side right now! Soujyuro stumbled and instinctively caught himself. It was a miracle he didn't fall. Sending the roller coaster on foot was an act of suicide. The egg stayed right by his side, so close it was likely it would collide with him. Though he was trying not to look at it, he couldn't help but feel uneasy that the door-like decoration of its center was gradually opening.
ああ、もうちくしょう。なんだってこんな。
Damn it, why now? He cursed his rotten situation. And yet he refused to slow down. He ran even faster, glaring at the egg on his side.
本当、おかしい。
This is crazy.
こんな状況なのに。なんで。
What's wrong with me? Soujyuro was baffled to find he was smiling. Perhaps it had something to do with Aoko's charm. Soujyuro couldn't tell one way or the other. He could still feel Aoko's fingers on his skin. The trust and expectation she had placed in him was etched into his heart. What spurred him on was something entirely different. This all stemmed from a much deeper problem. It was something inside him that he couldn't understand at the time, but eventually come to terms with one day.
よし。距離は今なら2メートル弱。
Wow, that was fast. Alright, less than 5 feet left. He carefully judged the distance as he ran down the track of death. The distance between what? That went without saying. It was the distance between himself and the one thing that could save his life. He told himself he was going to do it over and over, like a mantra. Soujyuro could not believe himself. What he was about to do was incredibly stupid. But what is stupid when smart isn't an option?
本当、なんでそこまでやるんだ。
I'm really gonna do this. This is insane. Amidst it all, he laughed at how pointless such self-reflection was now. Temporary confusion. A physiological thrill ride. Both had laid his soul bare. Psychological, whatever. What really mattered in life? What really mattered in life? The answer to that question was simple. His primitive values did not crave success or reward. All he wanted was...
よし。
Sit. To live the way he wanted. It wasn't an obligation to the people around him. His desire to live his way was his and his alone.
行こう。
Here we go! What? If the egg would have been equipped with a vocal function, it would have gasped and shocked at what happened next. The boy, who had only tried to escape up until this point, suddenly shifted his weight. He pointed his feet outward instead of inward. On the edge of one rail, he crouched ever so slightly to maintain momentum and gazed at the floating egg.
やれる。距離的に問題はない。
Close enough. Do this. Yeah, I knew it. I don't know what the end goal is here, but... Yeah. He soared through the night sky. It was a flight that lasted a mere 1.5 seconds. A cordless bungee jump from 100 feet above ground. His destination... The only thing that could stop his fall. A giant flying egg. Alright, Humpty Dumpty. Keep it together. He shrieked, this time out of elation, as he desperately clung to the egg's surface. Just earlier, the cold-blooded witch had told him that, without fear, the top of a building would feel no different than a balance beam. This, from the same witch that would have been left speechless had she witnessed the spectacle. It was one thing to be fearless, and another to be reckless. What the boy did next would give her a headache in the days to come. I'm counting on you, egg! Looking at the egg, he shifted his gaze away from it. He felt the rapid descent. Soujyuro, focusing his half-shut eyes on the ground, leaped off the egg once they were a few feet from the ground, then turned back to it, careful to reestablish eye contact. Something so unbelievable, thought to Soujyuro. So to Soujyuro, the elevator at the department store and this mysterious floating egg were both just moving objects, virtually indistinguishable from one another. What a guy. Alright, we're breaking. So it's a shame when food goes to waste. He landed near the plaza. A shortcut that almost cost him his life had paid off. Soujyuro took off running the second his feet touched the ground. The puppet, after Alko, was the only thing on his mind. He paid no mind to the moonlight in the sky. Or the egg. Or the egg, which was furious about being used and seconds away from self-destructing and blasting fragments all over the place. Huh? Alko's dumbfounded expression spurred Soujyuro on. The curse was complete. The empty egg began to sing its warning to let them know there was no escape. Shrapnel from the egg exploded through the air. The ode to Queen Alice that Alice had engraved into Dumpty quickly robbed him of his senses. Okay. Is that it? He snapped back to the task at hand and ran to Alko, still lying on the ground. His legs moved as if they had a mind of their own. Though he couldn't have stopped them anyway since he couldn't feel them. Don't you puppets ever give up? Yeah. And because it looks so much like her, hopefully you can be satisfied with just that. Good. The scrambled murder case. Piles of rubble became flowers of light blooming from the earth. Final curtain drew closed, and the defeated left the battleground. Had Alice Kanoji seen it happen, she would have been beside herself. The two escaped by a hair's breadth. The only person in position to witness that rare mutual destruction was the girl who'd been saved from it. The boy who never stopped running paid it no mind. Oh, thought you were a goner. The safety of the girl in his arms meant infinitely more to him than the miraculous way in which he saved her. I thought that was going to happen to the egg, but I didn't. Oh. The moon did not wait for the dawn to set. The ornamental texture of the fairy tale kingdom faded away. All of the illusions returned to the way they were before. From the ostentatious chords reverberating through the streets, to the puppets welcoming their guests. Peace and quiet reigned once more over a forgotten kingdom, never to be awakened again. Out flickered the embers of a late-night dream, even the electric lamps that illuminated the park. Together, they watched it disappear. Soujyuro lay on the ground, desperately gasping for air like a fish out of water. The curse of the exploding egg had numbed his pain, and he was understandably exhausted after all he experienced. He looked like he could be blown away with the lightest of breezes. While Alka was also exhausted, she was arguably in better shape. Focused on taking deep, even breaths, she was already working to recover her strength. So, she addressed Soujyuro indifferently as her gaze remained on the amusement park. The abruptness of it was a bit theatrical in nature. She wanted to look at him as she spoke, but her pride was simply too great. You did something kind of amazing, didn't you? The moment she had accepted death seemed like an eternity. She was beside herself in shock at how indifferent she had been to the shards raining down from the moon. But a reassuring voice had snapped her back into reality. Why did he do it? What was he thinking? What moronic things had he done to pull it off? She had no answers for these questions. Lying on the ground as she was, all she knew was that he had more than made up for his failure in the House of Mirrors and then some, in those fateful, final moments. She addressed him, hoping to find answers, but found herself unable to probe any further. To dig any deeper would feel like a defeat, which is why it was so unlike her to ask him in the first place. Lucky for her, Soujyuro had neither the capacity nor sensitivity to understand how egocentric she was being. Amazing. You are pretty amazing. Ozaki. He stuttered between labored breaths. It was taking him so much effort just to breathe in that he couldn't address her properly. She watched him out of the corner of her eye. Thinking back on it, Boy had performed the same role each time. Each and every time, he did what he could, despite his fecklessness. It was far more admirable than her nearly suicidal tactics, even if she did defeat her opponent. Yeah, the doll arm and then the bread man and then everything that just happened. He didn't even recognize how extraordinary his last act of courage was. Oop, shit. There it goes. Oh, he is fully disconnected, but that's fine. Well, I don't really want to admit it to myself, much less say it aloud, but such inspired actions were wasted in a supporting role. This guy really pulled off the impossible. It was so amazing that she wanted to shout it as loud as she possibly could for all the world to hear. Aozaki? God, he's so innocent it makes me want to barf. Aozaki could do a sigh. How could she not? Even she was forced to admit the way he'd snatched her from the jaws of death was pretty dashing. I must be getting soft. Truth be told, he was a lunatic for doing what he did. steadied her breathing and composed herself. While she was in bad shape, she still had her pride as a mage to consider. So she shot him on the floor right then. That was why she felt a need to maintain an air of dignity.
しずきくん、見逃すのは今日だけって話だったけど、あれ、なしでいいわ。
Suzuki, I was originally meant to let you off the hook for today only, but I'm willing to let the whole thing go.
とりあえず、命は助けてあげるから。
For the time being, I've decided to let you live. She hastily extended her right hand. It was as a shake his would help him up. However, Soujyuro did not take her hand, but instead stood up on his own. This night, despite the sheer insanity that he had experienced, his face had not once looked as incredulous as it did now.
何よ、そのリアクションは。
What? Something wrong? She stammered, worried that she had deeply embarrassed herself. Soujyuro's gaze was fixed upon Aoko. A problem had dawned on Aoko. Though she normally hated being stared at, this time she didn't really mind. Rather, she was enjoying the warmth in his eyes and felt like it was something she could almost come to appreciate. I forgot his voice. Man, it's been forever since I've done a voice. Did you get it? This isn't just about friendship. I didn't mean he only likes you either. Believe me when I say that Sonoji really... Oh. The conversation came rushing back. It was a memory that I must have forgotten.
いかん、それは違う。
No, not happening. Pushing Tobemaru's words out of her mind, so Aoko turned to Soujyuro.
それとこれは別だから。
Don't get any ideas.
私はあんたのこととか、ほんとどうでもいいんだから。
I don't care about you in the least. Puzzled, Soujyuro tilted his head.
さっき嫌いだって言われたけど。
Yeah, I know. You already told me how much you dislike me. He responded matter-of-factly to her sudden declaration. She certainly had pointed that out, and to his face, no less. It had a mere figure of speech that he was not meant to take literally. But now was not the time to belabor the point.
そうじゃなくて、あなたが私に惚れてても期待しないでって言ってるの。
I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying you shouldn't get your hopes up, no matter how far you've fallen from me. Yet, belabor she did anyway. Aoko blushed slightly, realizing how insane she was being. She wondered how she'd ended up in this position. And yet she knew that she had to get this off her chest. All that was left was to politely wait for his response. I can't date you. Such heartbreakingly painful words were too much for the simple boy to hear. His shoulders slumped as if the world was coming to an end. Or so Aoko had imagined. On the contrary, Soujyuro was sitting there in deep thought.
俺が青崎に惚れてるって。
Did you just say, I'm in love with you? Soujyuro murmured the words as if they were a magic spell. She shot right back with the affirmative. Ooh. After a moment of deep contemplation, the boy turned to the expectant girl and said,
なんで
"Why do you think that?" You should punch him. He had to be joking. But he was not. He was completely serious. So, he liked her, but he didn't like her? Of course, the vice president had jumped to conclusions. This boy had no interest in romance. He probably didn't even know what it was. So... She was incredibly embarrassed at how confused Soujyuro still appeared to be. Her rosy complexion spread through her entire body.
もう一度聞くけど、なんで
I'm going to ask again, but why do you think that?
そりゃこっちが聞きたいわよ
That's what I want to know!
飛び丸の大バカ野郎
And more on Tobimaru! And just like that, she lost her cool and given into an unjustifiable outburst. No, it's completely justifiable. It was time to seal off this area and destroy all evidence. Aoko's embarrassment dissolved into sheer panic, and her grudge against Tobimaru suddenly manifested as criminal assault. She lashed out with a punch that could have taken down a bird mid-flight. More specifically, it was a brutal right hook. Aoko blinked. Her blow had connected with something solid, snapping her out of her reverie. Her temper had lashed out at the completely defenseless Soujyuro. It had been a splendid blow with all her weight behind it, knocking him out cold. Oh shit! Soujyuro groaned, crumpling to the ground. Her punch finished the job that curse had started. If not for the discomfort on his face, he appeared almost to be sleeping. Aoko convinced herself that he was napping, not concussed.
いっか予定通りになったものね
Well, whatever. It's always gonna end like this anyway. The tension in her shoulders eased away as she looked down at Soujyuro. A ton had gotten in her way over the course of the day, but the day was saved. For now. With nobody left to butt heads, she felt exhaustion finally overtake her.
うわ歩いて帰れるかな私
Ugh. How am I gonna walk home like this? Her fatigue was enough to make her complain out loud. When she thought about it, she realized this was the first time she'd used up all her magical energy, and the first time she'd participated in a battle of this scale without any prior preparation. Though, in truth,
私一人じゃどっちも相打ちだったっけ
it would have ended in mutual destruction had I been alone. She felt somewhat proud as she whispered those words. Normally it was something that she would beat herself up over, but instead, she simply shrugged her shoulders with a bitter smile. After all, it was thanks to the person sleeping by her side.
ね聞こえてないわよね
Hey, you can't hear me, right? As if the night had swallowed her voice before it reached him, she received no response. Confident, she continued in an even quieter voice.
そのありがとう十分に助けてもらったわ
So, thank you. You really got me out of the jam there. Of course, there was no response from Soujyuro, and she was not expecting one. Saying it for the record was enough. Aoko watched Soujyuro sleep for a while, then pulled something out of her pocket. It was the palm-sized glass bottle her roommate had given her, which she opened with a pop.
でもそれとこれとは別だから
None of this matters. Leaving behind words colder than a winter chill at night, she called out his name. She barely sensed the bottle moving. As the silhouette of the fallen boy appeared to blur, she got the feeling that the weight of the bottle had increased just slightly.
うわどうなってんだろうこれ
Wow, that's kind of weird. What appeared to be a human form could clearly be seen inside the glass. Alice Kwanji's tools are mystics that could confound even the most knowledgeable of mages. As soon as Alko tried to analyze them with logic or reason, she was already out of her depth. Knowing this all too well, Alko closed the bottle, yeah, I thought so, and watched the boy disappear as if by some magic trick.
まったく、こんなの手品じゃなくて魔法だって。
Jeez, this isn't a stage trick, it's more real actual magic. She muttered as she looked into the magical bottle. Its weight hadn't changed significantly, and she had no idea how it worked. But the one thing she did know was that there was a human being inside of it. Its light weight was almost unnerving. Closer to empty air than a human being. It was about as heavy as one would expect if they had bottled a summer breeze. Though, that did fit her image of Soujyuro perfectly.
アリスの言う通り。
It's just like Alice said. She muttered no one in particular as she recalled the past.
ほんと、私らしくない。
This really isn't like me. Alko wore a bittersweet smile. Her usual moodiness was gone. It was a dangerous world out there. It was good to have someone to keep her on her toes. With a wry chuckle, she flicked the magical bottle with her finger and set off walking. She could hear a bell in the distance, signaling the end of the play. An ephemeral dream gave way to reality. In the grand scheme of things, it had been but an instant. As the actors exited the stage left, the last of the lights silently flickered out. And so, the long dead amusement park played its final role as a memory for a boy and a girl. Yay! All right. Like a dog. Yes. This must be where it just came from. Yeah. Night of the Witches. I think it's out in Colorado. Tea time. All right, guys. If you were wondering why I silently cursed to myself like an hour and a half in, it was because I did mental calculations, kind of guesstimating at how long the rest of this chapter would take. And I was about right. It would take about 3 hours to finish the whole thing. Well, not quite 3 hours, but close enough. Now, if this were like a game, I really wouldn't mind going for 3 hours, but also it's a little past midnight here, so I'm going to call it, especially since I have classes tomorrow. So I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day, rest of your week. I hope you all are taking care of yourselves. And oh, you know what? Today was International DMs Day for some, so enjoy that. I hope you had a good DMs day. Well, I guess that was yesterday. Anyway, and remember to take care of your resident asexuals. And take that for whatever you think that means. Bye, guys. Shit.